Hey guys and gals, it's Dr. Marcy. Don't mind me while I multitask. I just want to answer this question for Gary really quick. What he's asking me to explain is why body fat percentage is more important than BMI and why some of the other markers are also more important. So if you are somebody who's just going to go based on BMI and you're a physician, you should also be taking a measurement of someone's true waist and their hips and looking at that. The waist should be smaller than the hips. That's how we determine whether or not they have good cardiovascular capability along with blood work, right? So if we're looking at body fat percentage though, the average amount of body fat that a healthy female should carry is somewhere between 17 and 23%, partly depending on age. However, partly depending on age is also based on the fact that they do sometimes change those numbers and look at groups of people over time. And what they've noticed is that women over a certain age carry more body fat. Well, why do they carry more body fat? Because they have significant hormone changes, menopause, etc. And that's when you'll see that biggest shift in someone's body fat. So what is considered healthy? Well, for men, it's between 8 and 11% body fat. All the way up to 15 can be considered somewhat healthy. For women, it's 17 to 22%. That's your healthiest range. And a lot of people will say, well, what are these Instagram models doing that have, the six-pack abs and that kind of stuff? And the truth is they're exercising and they're doing it with resistance. And how do you build muscle? Resistance training. Why is it important to build resistance training and build muscle? Well, because you need strength in everything you do, and how strong you are can determine whether or not you're able to do certain things, even like getting up and down from the floor if you fall or if you sit down to play with your grandkids or something like that. And being able to get up and down from the floor is super important, especially if you live alone or you're by yourself for a period of time. That can be a task that is life-saving. So when we're talking about ways to measure how healthy a population is, BMI shouldn't come into account because it doesn't account for somebody's bone density. Like, I have really small bones. I have one of the smallest wrists I've ever seen for an adult female who's 5'8". It takes into account your essential fat, which there is a certain amount of fat that every person needs on their body to be healthy. And part of that is because those fats are needed for your brain, they're needed for your nerves, they're needed for hormone production even. And they're needed in case you sustain an illness and you need a reserve. So essential fats are important. And then part of that is what we call your storage fat. And it's also a part of your fat that you could burn for energy if for some reason you had to go without food for several days. So when we're talking about health, looking at waist to hip ratio, and the waist should be smaller than the hips, and looking at the body fat percentage is always going to tell us more about the health of an individual than just BMI. And in fact, BMI should be thrown out the window. Have a great day.